Cool. So the next thing we're going to be talking about is mental capacity. Mental capacity can be really, really scary and very, very time consuming to explain and go through thoroughly. We would be here for a very, very long time. So I'm going to break it down for you into 5 key principles. Those 5 key principles will help safeguard you and your client from any confusion of how to deal with certain situations. The first key principle is assume. You must assume that everybody you're caring for has capacity unless you were told otherwise by a professional in that field who carries out DOLS assessments. The word DOLS is abbreviated for Deprivation of Liberty Safeguard. So only if they've had one of those assessments done would they know whether someone has capacity or not. So that is DOLS, Deprivation of Liberty Safeguard. So we must assume that all of your clients have capacity, and you would know clearly if someone has capacity or not because it would be on your PASS system clearly stated. The next principle would be support. You must support your clients in gaining accessible information. So if they're asking you something they want information on, you as their carer are obliged to find that information out for them. So they might ask you, for example, to find the nearest gambling hall, or how much tobacco costs, or how much alcohol someone can consume in one day. All of those things you might think, hold on a minute, I shouldn't be encouraging that sort of behaviour or way of living. However, our beliefs and opinions do take a back burner when we are caring for clients, so you must provide accessible information for them. The only time this doesn't apply is if they're asking you to look into things that are against the UK law. So if they start to ask you about that, that's a different circumstance. But anything else, we must support them in providing information for them. The next one, which is principle 3, which is my favourite, would be an unwise decision. We all make unwise decisions from time to time, whether we are old, whether we are young, whether we are disabled or not, it doesn't matter. We all have the right to make unwise decisions. And that is the same for your clients. Just because you are caring for them doesn't mean they have to make perfect decisions all the time. And it doesn't mean that you have to be responsible for them making right decisions all the time. Let me give you an example. You are visiting a client who is reliant on medication, and he asks you to give him some alcohol with his medication. He has capacity. If he has capacity, you would have to give him the medication and the alcohol together, which I know sounds very, very scary. And of course, by all means say to your client, that's not a good idea. Medication mixing with alcohol is not good. It can be very, very damaging to you and can actually be fatal. That's fine, you can do that. However, the ultimate decision is theirs. If they still demand that you give them the alcohol to take with their medication, they are able to do that, and you must follow that instruction. Heaven forbid anything happens to your client because the medication was mixed with alcohol, the Mental Capacity Act would protect you if anything happened. So that's unwise, because we all do make unwise decisions, as crazy and as eccentric as they might be. So the next 2 principles are there to apply when someone is seen not to have capacity. And the first one is best interest. So any decision you make for someone who doesn't have capacity must be in their best interest, for them, not for us. So anything can be made into a best interest decision. A client might ask you or tell you that they want to wear loads and loads of layers in the summertime, and you can see that they're sweating. You would make that best interest decision to remove a couple of them layers just to cool them down and keep them well. That's in their best interest. And you're able to do that if someone is seen not to have capacity. The term capacity in itself means the ability to make a decision and weigh up the consequences of certain decisions. The word best interest, again, can be applied to any situation that you think, this doesn't seem right, I could make the situation better. If this doesn't have capacity, you're able to do that for them. However, principle number 5, it says it must be the least restrictive option. So any principle that you apply with the best interest, it must be the least restrictive. So you're not applying too much of your own opinion or too much of your own thoughts. It must be the most least restrictive option for them. So when you're thinking of a client, if they have capacity, you treat them like you would want to be treated yourselves, or the way that you would treat anybody else. And just because you're caring for them doesn't mean that you have the right to take over their decisions. However, if they are seen to have capacity issues, they do not have capacity, you're able to step in to make those decisions for them. But they must be the most least restrictive and made in their best interest.